Anyways, rule number 1 for better poker. 3-bet loose against weaker players. 3-bet loose when you have a skill advantage. This 3-bet is not ridiculous in theory. Like, it's probably, I don't know, close to break even. It could be like minus 2% of a big blind or something like that in game theory. And in real life, like, you'll probably find that your opponent doesn't fold very much here. Pre-flop, this is some kind of weaker player. GG Poker 100 Russian Cash has some regs in it, but it has quite a lot of recreational players. It's a pretty soft pool. And so we can imagine that Tom Durer, who's probably, this might be a reference to Tom Dwan, whose screen name was Durer, as we all famously know. This player is probably going to call a lot pre-flop, but they're not going to 4-bet a lot pre-flop. Our hand is going to have something like 50% equity against their calling range. So you may be wondering, well, where's the bang for your buck here? Why is this a good thing to do? And it's a good thing to do because of something called skill edge. And the way to understand skill edge is that it is an absolutely massive behemoth factor. It's the kind of factor that can grossly outweigh any technical rake consideration, blocker consideration. It just doesn't matter, like, where a hand is on a range chart. As long as it's just outside of a 3-bet range, it's not like you're 3-betting 8 deuce offsuit. Skill edge is going to make it good, especially if you're not having your equity denied on the first street by facing this 4-bet. So this is a play I'd highly recommend that you make. Mr. Tom Dwan here, not the real Tom Dwan, goes ahead and leads for half pot. As far as I can see, there's only one play here. We have an over, a backdoor flush draw to the 9. We have ace high, we have showdown value against mindless spew. We're obviously doing well enough to peel. I don't think raising at this SPR is even semi-sane. I think it's absolutely terrible. The reason being that this stack is going to be jamming a ton of stuff. Like, if he has flopped a set here or a straight here or a flush draw or a pair plus a draw, like pocket 8s or 8-7 or something, you can imagine that the whole stack goes in the middle and we just raise fold ace-9 and fail to realize any equity. That branch of the tree is so bad that it's well worth just avoiding that entirely. So call is really the only play here. We turn the 9, which is not really what we were hoping for, but it's okay. I think our hand is mediocre here. Fold equity from better hands. Really important that you're not making better hands fold by betting that turn. Well, maybe they fold like jacks sometimes, but don't go for fold equity in this spot against a recreational player. You have showdown value now. You just want to check back, head towards showdown. And another really good rule, and this is coming up later, right? So I won't spoil it too much now, but when you face sizes like this where you're getting about 3-1, you need about 25% equity to break even on a call. Like, don't ever fold in these spots. Like, forget entirely about what your hand actually is. As long as you can beat spew and bluffs and king queen and king jack and king 10 and stuff like that, which you can. And by the way, villain will also do this with like ace queen, because recreational players have no concept a lot of the time about polarization. Folding here would be absolutely diabolical. It would be so bad that I'm not even going to say you don't deserve to play the game if you fold here, because it's too much of an understatement, quite frankly. Pocket deuces. So the way this hand went down is kind of the proof that you should 3-bet ace-9 in the first place. Look at how villain played here. Villain led half pot on the flop with deuces, checked the turn, and then bet half pot on the river. Because recreational players are doing things like this, we're gaining so much EV by just being involved in the first place in these situations that we should be 3-betting super light. So if you're folding ace-9 here, button versus cutoff recreational, you're actually just making a big mistake. And I'm going to just come out and say that, and you might not like it, and you might prefer to follow your chart, and you might wish poker was as simple as following a formula and winning, but it's not. You've got to figure out what actually affects EV, and skill edge is one of the biggest things. Okay, moving on. Rule number 2. Slow play invincible hands at low SPRs. So that means when you're in a 3-bet pot, a 4-bet pot, you're against the short stack, give them maximum room to do silly stuff. So here we have a situation where our opponent calls the 3-bet. We go for a small bet here, just going to be betting a lot of our range as the squeezer. In this situation, I won't go into the reasons for that too much. You could build a checking range on this board. You could check aces as well. Wouldn't be a problem. I would say that ace 6-5 isn't pool's favorite board to go nuts on. They prefer to attack you on boards that aren't perceived to be as good for you as this, but some people will still overstab here. And against this raise, we have a very invincible hand. Like, if villain has 7-8, exactly, that's really the best hand they can have redraw-wise here. They still only have 6 outs, and at this SPR, they're quite likely just to jam the turn, I think. So you could ask yourself, well, if I jam, what am I really achieving? I'm making them fold like some gut shot, or making them fold 7-8 maybe, or maybe they just have to call this off by now at this SPR, I don't know, it's close. Probably is a call off. And then, don't we just cause ourselves a lot of pain and anguish by jamming? Not pain that you actually feel. Not anguish that you can actually see. But if you actually think deeper here and imagine what are villain's other hands here apart from 7-8, well, they can have like ace-5 or pocket 5s or pocket 6s. And if that's the case, we're just going to stack them regardless of what happens. There's no universe where we don't stack those hands in just a minute's time anyway. But what if villain has like jack 10 of spades? And what if you jam here? Well, they fold 100% of the time. And there could be many hands like that. We have no idea who this player is. We have no idea what they're capable of. If they have bluffs, the bluffs are probably very low EV for the most part, not worth denying equity to. And if they have value, then we stack them anyway later. If this is some fish that's got ace jack, it doesn't work to say if I jam, I think they're calling, because you can get the money later anyway. Even if turn goes check, check, you have SPR 1 on the river, you can jam. So this is a low stack to pot ratio, a low SPR, and you should absolutely slow play here. And what I want to show you is that when you slow play here, you might get a conclusion that suggests that you should have played the hand otherwise. Sometimes when you play completely correctly, like this call on the flop is completely normal and fine. Now I think we jam. It's too likely now that villain has no low equity draws left that are going to bluff river, but many hands that are either just bet calling off, you know, in a crying way like queen jack of hearts, or some kind of hand we're coolering, like ace queen or ace king or ace 5 or pocket sixes or something like that. So I think jam is now the play. And sometimes like you're going to jam and you're just going to run into like the worst thing, and it's going to be the highest equity bluff that villain could have, the 8-7 of hearts with the backdoor. The flush draw doesn't really matter here because, well, I guess the 5 of hearts isn't good for us anymore because that brings a straight flush. So that's a bit of an issue. If the 5 of hearts had come on the river there, I would have definitely thought that I'd won. Then I wouldn't be able to understand why the pot was being pushed to the opponent. Didn't notice that in game. But yeah, like, don't take this to heart. Like, just the fact that he had this one combo here, and it's debatable whether you should even jam flop against this combo, by the way, that is not the full picture. So definitely slow play at low SPRs when you have a nearly invincible hand. Nearly invincible. It's okay to lose a pot that you were winning. It's okay for your opponent to get there sometimes and beat you for a pot, for a stack. That's not the full game tree. This is unfortunate, but the lesson is clear. Slow play at low SPR.